Hey guys, how's everybody doing? We will get started here shortly. Let a few more people trickle in. The grind continues. Sweet. So yeah, we don't really have an agenda today. We'd like to do a Q&A. So if any of you guys have leads you're working on or just general questions, feel free to raise your hand. Riley's on it. So let me go through my normal intro first. As always, we like to know who our newbies are, at least if this is your first time with our group, the Herd of Profits. If you haven't been in our Zooms before, type 1. We have a smaller group. Maybe we don't have any newbies today.
I'm new here. Cameron Castaneda.
Cameron, you're new. Welcome, man. Thanks for how'd you hear about us? How'd you find us?
Joined Sub 2 a month and a half ago and went to the meetup on Saturday. Had a good time.
Oh, sweet. Right on. All right. Well, glad to have you, man. Yeah, super excited. So I don't recognize a cat with glasses at the meetup, but
I know I'm actually trying to figure out my video situation right now as we're talking. So
no worries.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out to get that going live.
No worries. No worries. Awesome. Well, yeah, glad to have you. Let's see. So, first of all, as usual, the best way for you guys to connect with us, stay in touch, send us leads, get support is through our Facebook group. So that is the Herd of Profits Facebook group. I'm going to drop that link in the chat. If you're not already a member, feel free to join. It's totally free. If you do request to join, make sure you fill out questions when you're prompted after you hit join, or otherwise you are at risk of being denied. So we want to make sure you do that. If you're part of the Facebook group too, one of the benefits is, obviously real estate's a big, scary thing. It's tough to do it on your own. So if any of you guys are working on your own leads, you're calling agents, you're calling sellers, you're getting leads in your pipeline, but maybe you're not too sure how to structure a lead, right? Like maybe you have someone that's open to a subject too, but you're not sure, okay, now how much do I offer as a down payment, right? Like how does the paperwork happen? They asked you some questions you may not know the answers to, right? The best way for you to get support is to do a joint venture with experienced sub-2 students like ourselves. So if you scroll over into the feature tab, we have these lead forms here. So we have direct to agent lead forms, direct to seller lead forms, and they just offer the option to joint venture with us. We will underwrite deals, negotiate deals, get properties under contract. We'll submit earnest money, open escrow, and help you find a buyer if that's what you're needing. And you can track the deal as we work it with you. You're along with us the entire way. Can we post properties there? Just did today, but wasn't sure. Yeah, Joanne, yeah, if you have properties under contract and you'd like to market to find a buyer, feel free. That's definitely one of the benefits of the group. We have, I'm sure, several buyers out of all of the members. Jerry Norton's in there, so I don't know if he's buying sub-2 deals or not. So yeah, you can connected with us through the Facebook group. Make sure you guys are tapped in there. And then also we go live on YouTube every week. So if you guys can't make it to the Zoom for whatever reason, you want to just watch us on YouTube. We have 4 people on YouTube. What's up, guys? Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Let's see. Kat says, since Circle has been disabled, I'm unable to log into Zoom. I can only view it from YouTube. Yeah, Kat, some of the reasons why to this technical support. If you join the Circle platform and registered through a different email than what your Zoom account is registered through, that could be the issue there.
No, Circle's gone, Dylan.
Right. Circle's gone. But if you registered when Circle was a thing with a different email than what your Zoom account is, yeah, that could be the issue there. So
yeah, Dylan, there's usually 2 reasons why people can't get in is because 1, they don't have a Zoom account. You can get a free Zoom account, or like Dylan was saying, you have to, when you sign up and register for the Zoom, you have to use that same email. So that's always how everyone can get in. But at least you guys can watch the live. So if those 2 reasons and you still can't get in to the live Zooms, then reach out to me on Facebook and I will help you.
Yeah, Kat, I would say, reach out to Rachel on Facebook and she can hopefully help you out if you're still watching on the YouTube. But yeah, great way for you to catch replays if you missed the Zooms. And then also just for more education, more training, I just dropped the link to that in the chat as well too. Make sure you subscribe. I think one of the recent Zooms we did, how to get your first deal in real estate, how to get your first real estate deal in 90 days or less should have been the title of that. But that was a great video. If you guys haven't seen that one and you're still struggling to get your first your first deal, make sure you check out that video. But yeah, we've called sellers live, we've called agents live, we've underwrote deals, we've walked sellers through contracts, we've comped properties, we've estimated rehab costs. So definitely a great resource for you guys to check out is Angie's YouTube channel. And we are steadily growing to 1 million subscribers, so we could use all the help if you guys don't mind subscribing. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Let's see. So yeah, today's just a Q&A. Again, if you guys have any questions whatsoever regarding real estate, whether it be wholesaling, flipping, how to comp, any of that good stuff, feel free to raise your hand. We prefer it if you could raise your hand instead of just asking the questions in the chat. So yeah, feel free to raise your hand. Don't be shy. So let's see, Riley, what do you got for us?
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I called a listing yesterday and I spoke with the agent. And towards the end of the conversation, I asked her if they'd be open to subject to. She's like, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, we would take over the mortgage." And she seemed open to it. She's like, "Yes, go ahead and send an offer." My whole thing is I don't know how to make an offer on that.
Sure, of course. So and that's the exact reason we offer the JV program, the lead forms, right? Is like once you get that lead, right, someone's open to hearing an offer and you're like, okay, great, you did that part, but now it's like, okay, what type of offer makes sense, right? And would you want to wholesale that, Riley? What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So now you have to know, right? Like what do end buyers want to pay for a subject to transaction, right? So you have to know what numbers you can lock it up and then also what numbers you can sell it as so that way you can make a fee. So that's like a perfect example of how we can help you. But I would say definitely submit it through the lead form.
Okay.
And we can also take a look at it too without without trying to get us taken off YouTube. For whatever reason, when we share addresses and stuff, YouTube tends to not like it and they take us down.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you find the lead?
MLS. It's on market.
It's on market. Are you a real estate agent?
No,
No, you're not. Okay. And what state is it in?
California.
It's in California. Okay. And how did you identify that it was it low equity? What made you call that deal?
I was looking at anything above 90 days.
Okay. So you're just calling anything above 90 days.
Right. Like I made like I was calling 10 listings and then this one they were open to it.
Awesome.
So I
And
was
was
just
it
making
just
calls
subject to?
back to back.
Love it. Okay. So you're hustling. And so do you know any of their financials, like how much of a mortgage they have, what the interest rate is, any of that good stuff?
I don't.
Okay, no worries.
All I know
Um,
is that they did have it. They had it, they opened escrow and then they had an appraisal go in and then they set their price. And so now their main thing is that the seller, because of the appraiser, the seller's like, okay, well, I don't want to go any lower than that.
gotcha. Okay. So the
Mhm.
seller's a little hard-headed. They're stuck with the price that the appraisal came back at.
Yeah.
Um, which makes sense, right? It depends on their motivation. When you made that phone call, did you ask about why the seller is selling or what their time frame looks like?
Yeah. Yeah. They're wanting to move to a different city and they would like to close within 30 days.
Okay. And then do you know like why they want it? Is it like do they just want to move to a different city? Are they
Yeah,
accepting a new
that was
job
like
offer?
the thing. They're just
Okay.
wanting to move to a different city.
In California.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. Typically, I like to dig a little deeper, right? You always want to find out if their motivation is a gain or if it's just a pain, right? So
Mhm.
if their motivation is I just like a different scenery, right? Then that's more of a gain, right? There's not a ton of motivation like a foreclosure or a divorce, for example. So if they'd like to just move to a different city, typically I'll ask leading questions like, oh, did they get a new job out there? Try to dig a little bit deeper, but either way, right, you got the surface level motivation. They just like to get into a new area in California. um if you want to, you can shoot me a DM with the address and I'll be able to throw it into Propstream and see exactly what their balance is, what the interest rate, all that good stuff is.
Okay, so like through the Zoom, right?
Yeah, through the Zoom.
Okay. I'm gonna try to do that right now.
Okay. In the meantime, Rachel, do you want to talk about the nonprofit?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
So Family Promise is a nonprofit and it is nationwide, and the Sub 2 community is having meetups across the country on November 22nd. So we will be doing it in Denver and in Colorado Springs. But also, I know some people can't always come on November 22nd because it's the day before Thanksgiving. So we're having our normal Denver meetup, we had some people bring some of donations, and now this Saturday we have our Colorado Springs normal meetup. And so I put that in the chat, and it is at a new location. I will add the chat in the chat. It is Trinity Brewery, and it's going to be from 11 to 2 on November 11th on Saturday. So if you guys can come and donate, that would be much appreciated.
Rachel, what are some of the things that they're looking for? Gas cards, maybe gift cards for food? What are those things?
Thanks, Dom. So yes, $25 gift cards. They want to start the donations at $25 gift cards to like for gas stations or for like Walmart. But then also they're looking in the Colorado Springs area. They're looking for canned foods, art supplies, baby wipes, toiletries, and diapers. That's like the main need. Every location is different. So some of you are, if you're in California, you know, there's going to be events there. They're going to have a different wish list. That's what we need for Colorado Springs. More details will be coming out, and I'll post more on the 22nd on like the events shortly.
All right. Thanks, Rachel.
Yep.
Okay. So Riley, I pulled that property up. So they're listed for $765,000, right, in Fontana, California. Now here's the thing, right? So it looks like they've owned it for 13 years. Looking at some of the financials, and if you don't have like Propstream or Privy or some of these programs, right, it would almost be impossible for you to know it. So it's no big deal. But yeah, it looks like they bought it in 2009 for $305,000 was their price, which is just crazy. And then it looks like, I want to say they refinanced in 2021. So their current debt, they owe $368,000. And Propstream is showing it's a 2.8 interest rate, but that's usually off by a point, give or take. So it could be up to 3.8, maybe higher, but it's usually pretty close. So, but there's a big gap, right? Like 700,000 versus 368. So, when you're doing your pitch, Riley, are you saying we'll pay them their equity in cash? What does that sound like?
No, I don't even know how to have that conversation.
Gotcha. Okay. No worries. So your pitch is just like, hey, what if we take over the mortgage payments? And they say, yeah, we're interested in something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So
well, the reason why I was able to do that, it's because she told me that they had 7 offers and they were all below asking price. And what motivated her, I felt, was, well, I told her that I had a buyer who was interested in buying in Fontana.
Okay.
And she said the buyer, I told her that the buyer would pay your commissions and the closing cost. And that alone was like, oh yeah, just send it over. Let me see what it is, and I'll go ahead and present it.
Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna show you some underwriting on this one. This is how I would structure an offer. So purchase price is $765,000, right? Like that's a big pain or motivating factor for them. It sounds like for them, the reason to sell is more of a gain rather than a pain, right? It's like maybe if they don't get their 765, they probably just will take it off the market and try again later. So another great question for you to ask, Riley, when you're on the phone is, what happens if they don't sell? Right. So that tells you a lot about their motivation. Well, they'll just turn it
exactly
into a
what you
rental.
said. Exactly what you said is what she said. Because I asked her, what would happen if they don't sell? She says they'll probably take it off and then put it back on the market, or they'll rent it out.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So perfect, right? It gives you more information that this just isn't the most highly motivated person. For me, actually, right now, like here's a good third party story. I have a leased Honda Civic. And I actually am trying to sell it right now. The only reason I would sell it is because I would let someone sub to it. I'd let someone take over my 5% interest rate on the lease, pay me the difference in cash, roughly $5,000 from what I think the car is worth compared to the debt I own it. And I would take that $5,000 and put it down on a Tesla. I want to buy a Tesla. right? So my motivation to sell is a gain, right? It's not like I can't afford the payments. The car is great gas mileage, everything is perfect, but I just would like a Tesla. But I get a ton of people hitting me up like, hey, what if I gave you $500 or $1,000? It's just, I'm just not motivated enough to sell it. So I'll just keep it at that point, So same thing when all of you guys are out there making phone calls, realize who what their motivation is. If they're just not motivated, if it's more of a gain, then they're just not going to accept most likely even a subject to offer or a low cash offer, obviously, as well too. So the debt they have on it is roughly 368,000. And we're gonna guess let's just guess 3.5%. Okay. So that difference is going to be roughly 400,000. So that difference is $397,000, and we'll call this their equity.
How did you number?
What's that?
How did you get the 397?
Yeah, so just their purchase price, 765, their asking price, subtract their debt. So 397 is their equity. Yep. And then now, their equity isn't 397, right? If they sell at 765,000, they're going to pay anywhere from 8 to 10% in realtor commissions and closing costs, right? So let's just call it 10% for easy math. So we'll call it $76,000. So 396 minus 76 equals 320,000. Again, like this is a gain situation, right? They're trying to capitalize on equity they think they have of 320,000, right? So they think they might get a big payday. Whatever their motivation is, they're going to put, probably not all of this down, but they're going to put a big chunk down, get a good interest rate, buy their next house, and then use the rest of this to take a vacation or do whatever they want with it, right? So, but this is how I start my offer is, okay, so your 397 is actually 320, right? So there's a big difference there. So when I'm offering subject to, I'm offering to pay the real estate agent's commission, and I'm offering to pay all the closing costs. So if I see they're going to net 320, I might offer let's say 40. So here's my offer is $340,000. Now, because I'm paying for the agent and the closing costs, that's not coming out of the seller's pocket. So it's basically 340 plus 368. So I need to paint a clear picture for the agent why my offer is $708,000, even though I'm basically $60,000 below what they're asking. They're going to net, I'm going to say equals net sale of 340,000. Again, because they're not having to pay the real estate agent or the closing costs out of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm understanding.
Right. So I'm picking this property up for $60,000 less, and the seller is getting a better deal as well too. So that's one way I structure this. And I show them a seller net sheet. Also in the YouTube videos, I think it's this Zoom right here, streamed about a month ago. I'm wearing a green shirt in it where we fill out net sheets. So that'd be a good Zoom for you to check out, Riley. I'll drop the link to this one too. So everyone can see it. Okay. Okay, so going back to this right now, there's just no way I can't put $340,000 down. It just wouldn't make sense, right? If I was an investor, I had $340,000 in liquid cash, I'm going to go buy 10 subject to deals instead of just this one. So here's again why knowing the seller's motivation is super important, is because our offer, although it might look strong on paper at 708, they're going to net 340. It doesn't quite net them that 340 immediately. So my offer is 708. But I can typically only, for this deal to make sense for me, if I'm going to go wholesale it, right, we need to think of entry fee percentages. Okay. So most investors, Riley, when you go to sell them a sub 2 deal, they want that deal to be at 10% entry, meaning, their cash that they have to bring to the table is going to be at 10%. So for me, I know I need to pick it up at least close to 7% so I can add my 3% in there and make that fee. So how that typically how we typically do it, and it's different depending on every single deal, is I'm going to offer the seller 5% down. So down payment is 35,400, and then I will also offer the agent 2%. Now, if the seller wants to pay the agent their other 1% out of the 5% that I gave them, they can. But just for me, I'm gonna try to negotiate. I'm gonna offer the agent just 2%. So 708 times 0.02 would be 14,160. So now my entry, and then here's the other part of it, right? Is like I'm only putting down 35,000 out of the 340 that they have. So 340,000 minus 35,400. That still leaves them with $304,600, right? So what happens to this? I'm going to ask them to seller finance this amount to me. Now this is a lot of money for a seller to finance on a property in California. But you never know, they may do it, right? So if I throw this into an amortization calculator, for me, I want this payment to be as low as possible. So if I do 0% interest amortized over 30 years, that payment's still $846 a month. It's 30 years at zero interest, right? It's still a pretty high payment, obviously, because it's 304,000. But also just extremely unlikely your seller takes a 0%. So you can shoot for 3%. So 1284. So I'm going to say, finance me this 304,000 at 3%, and I'll pay you 1284 per month. And essentially, that's my offer, right? So my entry into this deal is going to be this 35,400 plus 14,160. We're going to call it just 50,000. It's a little less than 50. So now when I go to resell this deal, right, my offer is at 708. I can add 20 grand. $20,000, and then now my buyer's total entry is at 10%, and that is 70,000. So like this doesn't it doesn't matter for the seller, right? All they care about is, hey, here's your offer, 708,000. That's a net equity of 340,000. Out of that, I can only bring 35 to the table. I'll pay your agent 14 grand, and then I'll ask them to finance me 304,000. Does that make sense, Riley?
I forgot how'd you got the 35,000.
Yeah, so my 35,000 again. So we're talking about entry fee percentages, right? Mm-hmm. So I know I can market this deal for 70,000, so I need to get into it for less than 70,000. So I typically start my negotiations out with, I'm going to offer the seller 5% down. So that's where that 35,000 came from. This is
5% down from 70,000,
or this is 708. 5% of 708 is 35,000.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So that's just 5%. That's a low entry deal for us. And then we can add a fee on top of that. And then you're also paying the agent 2%. So now my entry is 7. This is 5%.
Okay. And I do have a question because I did have another agent who was kind of open. Now their issue was that the seller was wanting to move to Texas, and he was worried that since the mortgage would still stay in their name, how would they be able to qualify for a loan?
Yeah, I mean, very, very valid question. So, one thing I'd recommend for you to like when you're making your phone calls is to have this document up in front of you. Is this subject to frequently asked questions? We also send this document when we send the letter of intent. But this question, will this affect my debt to income to buy another property? That's the objection you just got, right? So, the simple
I put
answer
it
is
okay, so it's
okay.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So for conventional and FHA loans, we prepay 1 month of a lease agreement up front, and the lender that we use is typically able to wipe off 75% of the seller's debt to income ratio immediately. After 12 months, it's no issue. So if this is always a good question when that's an objection you get is, okay, how soon do they plan to buy? Is it before 12 months or after? So you want to know that. If it's after 12 months, it's easy peasy. You don't even really have to worry about it. When they're ready to buy, we can just show their new underwriter, their new lender, that the servicing company has been making the payments for 12 months, and it's easy to knock it off their debt to income. Now, if they want to buy before that 12 months, it does get tricky. And this is where you just have to, get good at really understanding this process. We have to do what's called a departing residence. That is a term in the lender world. It's also called a primary conversion. So when right, like if you think about it, veterans, right? A lot of people don't know, but as a veteran, you can buy multiple homes with your VA loan. You get what's called an entitlement. Let's call that, right, a veteran. It depends on many factors, but let's say they're entitled to 500,000. So they can go buy one $500,000 house, or they can go buy five $100,000 houses. So when you're dealing with VA loans versus FHA and conventional, there's a hiccup there about how leaving the debt in their name affects them. But with just conventional and FHA, if they want to go buy a new property, essentially all we need to do is show the lender proof that the payments will be made for the next 12 months. This gets very into the weeds of things too. I probably will lose some of you, but if we can prove that, hey, their payments will be made for the next 12 months, they can typically wipe off 75 to 100% of the debt. Now, the way we prove that their payments are being made for the next 12 months is by a signed 12-month lease agreement. So we sign a 12-month lease agreement proving that, hey, we're going to be renting this property out for the next 12 months. We'll be making the mortgage payment or even above the mortgage payment as a rent to the seller. That will clear it from their debt to income as well.
So if they needed to like sell their property to then be able to move into another property, is that when it becomes complicated?
Yes. So we just closed on a deal like this here in Florida. My seller wanted to hit his whole goal to move. He wanted to get away from the ocean. He wanted to move to Georgia. Okay, so that was his motivation. Him and his wife were both veterans, so that's a good scenario because they double up their entitlement. They had roughly $600,000 of entitlement. The Florida home was only roughly 300,000, and their Georgia home was 300,000. So they had plenty of entitlement to buy their next home, but they don't have enough income to be able to afford the mortgage on both homes. So what we did is I signed a 12-month lease agreement saying, hey, I'm going to rent their property out, the Florida home, for 12 months. And they took that lease agreement and were able to clear the Florida mortgage off of their debt to income, and they qualified for their Georgia home. Does that make sense?
In that month?
In that month, in the same month. They actually close on their Georgia home before we close on their Florida one.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So it gets complicated, but if you have a good lender, they'll understand departing residence. It happens pretty often because, regardless of sub 2, people want to keep their homes as rentals and then go buy another home. How they do that is by showing rental income. So that's exactly what we do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So gets into the weeds. But yeah, so back to this offer, right? If if I'm this seller, my goal is just to move cities for whatever reason. And they've gotten several offers, but it's not at their asking price. If he doesn't get his asking price, he's just going to rent it, or he's going to put it back on the market later. My offer at 708, it nets them more money, right? But I'm only putting 35 grand in down, right? They're only going to receive that 35,000, and they're tying up $304,000 at 3% interest for 30 years. We can offer a balloon, but it's not going to be anytime before 7 or 10 years. Just really not an enticing offer. So I'll stop share here. So for you, Riley, the best types of homes you can target aren't necessarily, just homes that have been sitting on the market for 90 days. Although that may be a distressed indicator that, yeah, hey, they've been on the market for 90 days, right? They might be getting desperate. But, and the only way to do that is really by paying for some of these softwares like Privy or Propstream. But you want to target people that have low equity. For example, right, they're listed at 765. If they owed, let's say like 740, they're going to cut it. They're going to have to write a check. They're going to lose money to sell their home. Those types of sellers are going to be much more inclined to take a subject to offer than someone that has a ton of equity in their home.
Okay. I did have Privy. I stopped using it. But on Privy, I can find low equity. I didn't find a button where it said low equity.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Privy doesn't have like a filter for it. What they do have, and you kind of just have to find the individual property, right? So if I'm looking in Denver's a bad example because everybody has equity in Denver. So if I'm looking in Maricopa County, Arizona.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Privy's data is more updated than what was that other one that you mentioned?
Propstream.
Yeah.
I think their data is probably a little bit more accurate, but they're two different programs. For every beginner investor, if you're willing to put some money into this, I would 100% recommend Propstream over Privy first, because Propstream has a lot more things you can do on it. Privy is great for comping properties and finding buyers, but Propstream, you can do those same things. Propstream, you can actually like check filters for a lot more things. So on Propstream, for example, I can filter for like loan to value or estimated equity. Like I can look for people who have 20% equity or maximum 20% equity. Right. So this tells me, hey, these are people with low equity. And then I can cross-reference that with people who are for sale. And then,
so let's say I find a listing on the MLS, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would then just copy and paste the address on Propstream and then see what they have.
Right. So the better way is to reverse engineer, right? So instead of like just looking on the MLS for properties, I would just go to Propstream and filter, okay, I want people with, I can even filter their interest rate. So I can go to mortgage info. I can say, okay, I want them to only have one loan. I want it to be conventional FHA and VA, and I want their interest rate to be a 4.5% max. And I can filter, okay, I need them to be on market only. I don't want off markets. And I want their loan to value to be at an 80% minimum. So here in Phoenix, Arizona, there's 127 on market properties with low equity with interest rates below 4.5. Okay. So that's just why I recommend Propstream versus Privy. I can go in and look at these on market properties. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And Privy's a newer system too. Their servers sometimes can't withstand, all of the people using them. So now Privy, you can go into public records, mortgage history. So I can see, hey, these people owe 169 at 5.57, but I just can't filter for, they have a lot of equity and they have an interest rate higher than 5.57. So that's why I'd recommend Propstream. It's going to be about $100 a month. But if you're serious about it, right, you're full into the real estate thing, I think before any other software, Propstream is what I would recommend you get.
Okay.
PropWire, I think, is a free software, and I think it's free, and that is also a decent software. Obviously, it's free, so take it with a grain of salt. But I think they have some of these. It is free, Donna says, but they have some of these similar filters. I've never used PropWire, so I'm not too sure. I've never played around with it, but yeah, Propstream, I can filter for years of ownership, right? So like, let's say I just want people that have bought specifically from, let's say, 2020 to 2023, right? So I want at least 1 year of ownership and no more than 3. Okay, so now here's 109. So I know these people bought it within 2020 to 2022, most likely 2023, and they have low interest rates, low equity. If I click on this one, they're listed at 579. They owe 467. So decent amount of equity, but definitely a lot lower, and their interest rate is great as well.
So let's say with this conversation with the agent, because it's low equity, are you bringing that up in the conversation?
It depends. People ask us all the time, like, what does your script sound like, right? We have a script in the Facebook group that anybody's welcome to download. It's for talking to agents about creative finance. My pitch tends to change every single conversation. For example, let's look back at this property. Okay. Try not to say the addresses here. So these guys have been listed for 22 days. That's not very long. My pitch is going to change depending on how long they've been listed. Maricopa County, Phoenix, Arizona is, a hot spot for sub-2. Every sub-2 student is calling low equity in Maricopa County. So if a property's been sitting on the market for 90 days, I know for a fact, 100%, I'm not the first person to call them and pitch sub-2. So my pitch is going to sound like, hey, my name's Dylan. I'm another annoying person calling you about a subject to transaction. Do you have a sec? Something like that to get a laugh out, throw the elephant in the room. I know they've gotten a call like this, but this one, it's only been listed for 22 days. My pitch is a little bit different. It's probably like, hey, my name's Dylan. I'm looking, me and my team are looking to add properties to our portfolio. Just curious how this listing's been going so far. I see it's pretty new. Have you had a lot of showings or any offers? Get a feel for the listing. And I'm going to ask about the seller. What's their motivation? And then I might say, okay, here's the way we buy homes: cash, sub-2, blah, blah, blah. Can I send you an offer? Would they be open to that? Kind of like that.
Okay. And so if the property needs a lot of work or if it doesn't, either one, does that really matter for creative finance?
It does. Yeah, most certainly. Right. Like, absolutely it matters because, you have to take into consideration how much repairs are going to be needed and your exit strategies change, right? So if a property needs a lot of work, maybe your exit strategy isn't just a buy and hold rental. It could be a fix and flip, or it could be a BRRRR, right? Like renovate it, refinance, and then hold it. So it definitely does matter. Going back to the first example, this one that we just underwrote, if let's say this property needed $50,000 worth of work just to get it rent ready, now when I'm going to sell this, my entry fee, I'm asking $70,000, but there's another $50,000 in work that needs to be done. That's kind of calculated into your entry fee. So you might have a harder time selling this deal. So, maybe you need to buy it with a lot more equity. So maybe my purchase price actually needs to be $608,000 instead of $708,000.
I see.
Mhm.
Okay, got it.
Yep,
All
a
right.
lot of factors. Yeah, it's tricky. But yeah,
It's
that's why
fine.
we're here. So
Right, exactly. And so I should fill out that form um with this information and then go from there basically, right?
yeah, yeah, and so my team will look at it too, right? So and I'm in there, I'm in our CRM all day long. So if someone sends me a property like this one that we just looked at with a ton of equity, the motivation's not really clear. They, it's an immaculate property. Also, most investors are staying away from these higher end homes, like $708,000 for an investor. There's not a ton of exit strategies. It likely won't cash flow as a long term rental. Wrapping a $700,000 home is going to be a tough thing. So for me, I'm looking for homes within $100,000 range to maybe 400,000. That's really our sweet spot. So are you in California, Riley? Is that why you're looking in that area?
Yeah.
Yeah. California, I'm sure you've heard, is just a really tough market right now.
Yeah.
Um, it's better for fix and flips because the values out there are so high. So if you're looking for deals in California, I would say focus on cash, focus on direct to seller. I wouldn't look for deals on market. I would maybe recommend driving for dollars, looking for distressed properties, trying to contact those homeowners and seeing if they'd take a low cash offer. Then you can sell that to a fix and flipper who's not concerned about the landlord laws in California. But if you want to get some creative deals, I would say look in Arizona, Texas, the Carolinas, Florida, Georgia. You'll probably have a lot easier time selling those back to an investor.
Got it. I was focusing on Florida for a little bit, but then I met 3 buyers in California, which made me go back
Okay.
to California.
Love it. Okay. So no, that's great. So ignore everything I just said. If you already have ready-made buyers that are serious, they've given you their location they want to buy in, their price range, right? That's perfect. So now you just need to, I would say, invest into a software like Propstream where you can actually target these low equity on market sellers. You're just gonna have a lot better conversion rates, right? When you're dealing with someone with low equity versus someone that has $300,000 in equity.
Okay. Should I still send this one over to you guys?
I would say probably not.
Okay.
I think there's a 99.999% chance that seller doesn't accept that offer. And even if they did, I just don't know. Yeah, there's just not really many exit strategies on it, But I gave you that framework. So if you want to copy this again, this Zoom is being recorded and just give a verbal to your seller, or again, go to the Facebook group. If you come over to files,
We
come
can't
down
see.
to this. Oh, you
Sorry.
can't see my screen. You
No.
can't see my screen.
Sorry.
No worries. So come to the Facebook group, Herd of Profits, go over to the files, download this hybrid letter of intent and fill those numbers in and send an offer out that way.
Okay. So what with the exact information you showed me?
Yep. And then again, if you're needing support, come watch this YouTube video right here in the chat. We show you how to fill out a net sheet, which is also right here in the Facebook group, and then also how to fill out the LOI.
Okay. And so in Florida, it's almost like the exact same thing, but it's just in Florida, right? The conversations I'm having with the agent.
Yeah, I mean, exact same thing. 100%.
Okay.
Every state's going to have, different laws and stuff like that, but my pitch is generally the same. Yeah.
Okay. So I know because I watched videos for Privy, it's how to find buyers. So my first step would be find a buyer out in Florida and then search in that area to see what I find, right? And
Yeah,
then just
absolutely.
pitch creative, whether it be seller finance or subject to. And then I go to the Facebook group and then I fill out that form.
Yep. There you
Right.
go. Exactly. Yeah. And leverage the Facebook groups to find buyers as well too.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great question. Thanks, Riley. Amy said she had to be right back. I don't know if she's here. She left at the worst time. All right, I'm gonna go to you, Michael, and we'll come back. Amy.
I'm here, Dylan.
Oh,
I
you're
just
here?
am driving and I may lose you because I'm in a spot where I often lose you. So if I do, I'll
Okay.
get right back on.
Okay, no worries. Sorry, Michael.
Is it
We're
okay
gonna be there.
to ask my question?
Yeah, please, yeah. Oh, did we lose her?
No, am I here still? I guess
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna try to ask this discreetly because I know we're on YouTube. But I had mentioned a deal, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where I'm doing kind of this, I guess it's called a partner flip, or that's what I'm proposing. There's a lot of concern about capital gains. It's a situation where it's an elderly person. And so we want to help them avoid capital gains if we can.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way that I was trying to think of a couple of ways because they need the proceeds from their home now to pay cash for the next home, right? And yet they also want to avoid capital gains. So I was wondering about either doing kind of a cash for a certain threshold and then doing seller finance with the remainder of it, or with a pretty short balloon, so that it would kind of saddle the 2 years. So that would avoid capital gains, I think, unless it's by property address. Is it by calendar year or property address? Like,
I'm not entirely sure, but is it the seller's primary residence?
yes.
Okay, so and these are going to be all questions for a CPA, but I believe a seller doesn't pay capital gains on their primary residence. So if they're living in it and they so happen to buy it at 200,000 and then next year it's now worth 600,000, they don't pay capital gains because it's their primary residence. Now that may be
Well, but you do when you sell it.
Well, you get 250 exemption
Right,
per
exactly.
person. If you're married, you get 500
for a couple. Right. Yeah, that's what we're trying to, like, when I sold my home, because I met the threshold, I didn't have to pay capital gains on what I earned. And so if we make it 250, then she is under the threshold, or whatever it is, 249, under the threshold for capital gains. But then if we pay the remainder of the offer price, for instance, if we offered, let's say 350, but we wanted to help her avoid the capital gains, so we paid the 250 or 249 in cash, and then seller financed the remaining 100K. I don't know which call I've heard Pace do that. Is that one way to help people? I'm just trying to think of all the creative ways we can help her avoid that.
Yeah.
While still getting enough the trick is like getting enough to purchase the next home. So Dom, you, Dylan, anybody?
Yeah. I mean, you're
not avoiding them, you're just kind of deferring them, and you're not paying them all at once. So you don't really avoid. I mean, you can't avoid taxes unless your Pace, whoever.
But
it would defer it, and it would just make it so her earned income for that year didn't spike, 600,000, just spiked up by 250,000, which was offset by the break they get on the capital gains. But you're not going to avoid those taxes. It's just going to avoid having it all at once.
If we finance the remainder of it, or structure it so that that doesn't come until the next calendar year, Dom? Is it by property address? For instance, if the property overall makes 350, even though it's in 2 different calendar years, is that what they determine capital gains by, or is it in 1 calendar year?
Well, you can't do that consecutively, like if
Okay.
that's what you're asking me. It's that per, I don't even think I think it's like a 5-year term. I think it's
Okay.
every so often. You can't just go buy another one tomorrow and be, 250,000 in the good and not pay capital gains if you sold it.
Right. But I know
There's a
that,
time frame on it.
okay. I know that there was some kind of an arrangement Pace was able to do that helped a person. I don't want to say, I don't mean it in a manipulative or illegal way to avoid it, but it helped them to stay protected, I guess, from the capital gains.
I would definitely, because there's all sorts of factors in there of what
Right.
is going on. I would definitely have her accountant, her CPA. You tell them what you're trying to do and then see if that jives with their numbers.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that would be my only suggestion too. That a CPA is going to know the answer to that.
Especially if that's the driving factor for the sale. Like if it's just
No.
something you're trying to help with, you could say, well, you could probably do this and go talk to your accountant. Is it the driving factor?
For the sale itself?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's I can fill you in, Dom. I don't, because we're on YouTube, I can't divulge too much,
problem.
but there's more factoring into it, and there's an urgency of time factor too. But
I would say help them the best you can with the package that you have. And then if by chance that, the capital gains and all that stuff is solved in that same puzzle, then great, but I wouldn't base it around that.
right, I think because we were doing kind of this modified novation, I guess is what they call it, where we pay a price and then the remainder, Joey and I talked through it, the remainder of it is then paid at the sale of the newly developed, newly constructed, newly renovated property. But the cash is still over the two, the part we're paying in cash before the sale of the new property by the new owner. Then it kind of throws them into the capital gains category. But
I'd have to see the whole deal. I definitely have a CPA involved.
For sure. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sweet. Thanks, Amy. Wish we could help more with that.
I appreciate, sorry to always come up with kind of obscure situations, but anyway, at least it's definitely not dull.
Absolutely. Very interesting. All right. Michael Brown, what do you got for us?
Hey, what's going on, Dylan? Can you hear me?
What's up, brother? Yeah, I can hear you.
What's up? I'm the probate attorney guy. I really love the whole probate situation, and those are like the type of sellers I want to help out. Those are, probably the most motivated, but also they, got a lot going on. So I understand that, so that's just like where my heart at is, this whole like real estate game. But I never really see, like online, like on YouTube and stuff, like no one really goes over there's tons, on probate, but more specifically like working with probate attorneys. Because I seen one video with Pace and one video with like Brent Daniels and maybe Jamil, but no one really does like the whole like what to say type of thing,
Yeah.
Them, because like that's the most important part, So I already made a list, and I called one in my market, and I kind of explained it. I didn't even really know what I was saying, but I was just like, if they had any, sellers, going through that probate phase, and once all that's done, taken care of, with the judge, and they get all the paperwork settled, if they still, need to sell, and they wanted a good cash offer, definitely keep us in mind, and we could help out with that. So I guess I don't know, I was just wondering if like, or maybe you or Dom or Angie or knew anyone in the space, who has experience, could maybe give me some more pointers on like how to approach these, because like I'm kind of not the best on the phone, so I really want these probate attorneys that I reach out to. I want them to think like, yeah, they can count on me to go to for you know to help them get the deal sold, and then that way they look good with their clients too. So yeah, if you guys know anyone who could maybe give me some pointers, that would be super awesome, because these are the people who I really want to help out.
Pace has all the pointers. That's what he used to do. But I would say you just got to find out, are they local? Is it in a local market, or are you calling over the phone?
My market's Florida, yeah.
And you're in Florida.
No, I'm up north. I was gonna go down there to get my agent license, but I'm up north right now, so it's virtual right now. But that's why I was thinking. I was trying to look around to see if maybe Pace had any like cold call videos, or to try to outreach, just to see to say like if
Yeah,
we
it's
could.
going to be a tough one if you don't have, I mean, to get a hold of an attorney is just hard enough as it is, regardless of what you're doing. You know, pop buys with the front desk girl and see
Yeah,
what the
the front
attorneys
desk.
have. Yeah, see what the attorneys have. They run the show for those attorneys, man. They let you in, or they don't. They are the boss, regardless of what people think. It's the office manager, the front desk girl. They're the bosses, man. I mean, you got to really get to them and find out what those attorneys are struggling with right now with their probate, and offer to alleviate that, whatever that happens to be. But just cold calling is going to be pretty difficult, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know. That's why, like I said, there's tons of videos, out there, making deals with agents. But I figured that would be a great market too, because I was gonna try to send over some referrals too, because when I'm doing my tax delinquent list, a lot of those are older sellers who they end up being here, because that's how it goes down. And so I was gonna reach out, when I'm doing my calls with them, and say, hey, if you need a friendly attorney, we have a great outstanding guy we work with. He would love to take on your case, and you could
Well,
talk with him,
there
and
you
that
have
way
it.
I could
There's your in right there. There you have it. Build
yeah.
something around that to go to the to talk to the office managers, front desk girls, and tell them that that's what you're around, thousands of deals and people all day long. You're on this many Zooms, you attend this many, whatever it is you have to sell, right? And then tell them that you're willing to send over all your leads to them, and then just give that first, and then see how that works, and then you know start nurturing that relationship. It's just going to take a while on that. You're not going to pick up. I don't know. You could. I've been proven wrong, but typically you're
Yeah,
not going
I
to pick
know.
up the
That's why.
phone and get a
Like I
hold of
said,
that attorney.
I can't find anyone out there. I've been looking, in the Facebook groups and stuff to see who's really good with, and has been doing deals with probate attorneys. Because not only that, if I did, hand over some referrals, once they get that whole probate process done, we can still keep in touch with the sellers and say, hey, now that you got the probate stuff taken care of, we can buy it now, so do the follow-up
Look
process.
for
So
associations, attorney, probate. Just look for different associations. There's one called ALA. Forgot what it stands for, but it's here locally in Colorado. But it's the Administrative Legal Assistants, and they all talk to each other. I used to be part of it. It costs money. You have to attend their events and donate and all that stuff. But that's one of the best ways to do it. Just join one of their groups.
the association.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to look that up in the market I'm in. All right. Yeah.
It's a little bit expensive. You got to spend money on. Not expensive, but it costs a little bit of money to be part of those, and time.
Yeah,
That's why I
no,
asked if it was local.
yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No, I'll definitely, I'm interested in, attending more, real estate, meetups and stuff too. So yeah, I'll definitely keep this one down too. I'll bookmark it and check it out, see what I can find. But yeah, like I said, I just, was, nervous on the phone, and I wanted to see if I could find anyone else. I'll keep, looking on YouTube and stuff. Like I said, I think I seen Brent Daniels. He's got some on it, but and they did a couple interviews with some probate attorneys, and they were like, yeah, we would love to work with more investors, because that way they take care of their problems, that they need, like inventory and such, and the referrals and, buying anything that they need. So yeah,
I think you're on the
see
right
what I
track,
can
man.
do.
I think you just need to put a little bit more time in it. It's like anything that's a good niche to have, right? But it's just
Yeah,
going to take some time.
yeah, right on. All right. Yeah, well, yeah, no, thank you so much. Like I said, I'll keep looking at it. I just think now I know at least, I am in the right direction. So I'll
Right on.
keep at it, and I'll let you guys know. And yeah, I would love to send over anything if I do get something in the lead form, and then if we may need a buyer. Yeah, right on. So, all right. Yeah, thanks. I
Cool,
appreciate it.
Michael. Love to help you.
Let's go. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, my 2 cents on it. I'm definitely not super versed with probate attorneys. If I had to guess though, right, I'm sure just like you, they're getting phone calls from a ton of other people. So the way to set yourself up is or set yourself aside is how can you provide value to them, right? So I think walking into offices and having as many conversations with you can, like what do probate attorneys struggle with? How can you find their bunnies and provide value to them? And then in return, right, they'll send you their leads that way. So just more conversations, go shake hands, meet people belly to belly, I think is probably the best way to tackle the probate market, Michael.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, definitely. I'll keep
Sweet.
at it. I'll let you
All
guys
right.
know.
Thanks, brother. And then yeah, we'll end it with Cameron.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Hey there. Okay, so when I was meeting with a bunch of you guys this last week, sounds like you guys are doing a lot of deals direct to agent. And so I was curious, getting on the phone calls this week, is there an advantage or just not as advantageous to hitting direct to seller or off market?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I would say anytime you can get direct to seller is probably better. For us, we've been super successful looking at on market because it's easy, right? Like these are people that already have their hand raised. We know they want to sell,
Right.
and we know they have low equity, they have low interest rates. But we do, especially a lot more recently too, we've been doing a lot more marketing direct to seller where we're targeting expired low equity. So
Right.
they just never got their price, so they took it down, they turned it into a rental or whatever the case may be. So definitely more advantageous to go direct to seller, but a little bit easier to find the on market low equity stuff. Absolutely.
For sure. Okay, that makes sense. I just wasn't sure if I should just be fine tuning that to direct agent and direct to seller first as I get
Yeah.
going. Should I also be acquiring this like a buyer's list? Just building those relationships. Obviously, it's good to build relationships regardless. But I mean, it sounds like you guys have an awesome program. So I'd love to just submit my deals towards you so that I can